This is Max from DexFXMarkets.com. Today is the 21st of April, 2021, and we're here in our Discord unit. And this is the pseudo process that we refer to as trading with Maxx. I'm not sure what we're going to call these sessions, but we're going to try our best to find something to put into that slot. We'll be trading periodically through the day. As you see, even like Eric B is trading between 7 a.m. And 7 to 11 p.m. I'm going to see if I can sneak in there once in a while. Maybe we even have Trader Paul, help you out there as well. Welcome, David. We also are just starting out this morning and getting on board. A few things that we'll go over with you today is the setups that we've been using, of course, and a few other things about what happened yesterday throughout the night, which is pretty cool, and what we've been working with here in the Dex Atomics. All right, let's get started. We can just run down the list. It's the top of the hour. I'm about 2 minutes late. I don't like doing that, but, you know, things happen. Audio USD has no signal. Euro JPY, no signal. Euro USD has a signal. Now, yesterday we talked about, and what we've been using is for a setup is referred to as pressure, contention to the market. And as people are trickling in, the setup here that I have is a moving average of 100, moving average of 50, and moving average of 20. The 20 being an actuator line, right? This is being the mean, this is being the long-term trend value, and this is being an actuator line of what should we do. As you can see, there's a buildup and a crossover happening at this hour and this time. So this means that I can, if the market's moving upwards in this value, even though that we are kind of palpitating a little bit, I'm going to use a little bit more risk to the value. Here is where the process says to put the statement at 2007. I'm going to go over and look to see what's on Nadex for that availability. Okay, we're using Euro USD. Got to hit refresh. And the 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And of course, I've already forgotten 2007. 2007. 2004, 2008. I think we can work with 2008 right there. Does have good lines. Now, the thing here too is that this is already pushed into the low zone once already, so we have to have a lot of caution. Now, luckily, we're at a 45.55, so we're going to go with that. It's already pushing. That's for that side. We got to go for the buy side. We're going to go 55, and we're going to place order. It's going to put us into a working order. Now remember that there are two sides to this little box zone here that when we create that pressure, right, is one of those perfect setups. We're not going to go down here because this is more of a stop hunt mentality, right? It's going to push past that hard level, which is this green and red. Right? So the excerpt, look, everything's just sort of lining up already to what our system is already. Right? This hard line being in between the two variables for that hilt line. And as we see that we come down here and we hit into the zone, what happens here is what creates that pressure. Is this little higher high or higher lows in this process. And it starts to create pressure right up against this top of this little channel right here. And this is where everything's going to push out. Now what we hope on is that it'll come down and pop and then go back up. But by that time, it's already sort of come through this box. That's why I've sort of kept it really super close. If this is supposed to do its job, right, which it does a lot of the time, it's going to pop up and end up here or really close down to here, following this trend line here. Okay. All this stuff will start to meet up. This 20 will start to push up like this, and it all should be up in this area. Now this is one that you can start looking for, you advanced traders at this point. I hate drawing all over the chart here. You would start looking at, give me a second, I'm going to see what the, no. You would start looking at coming in a little closer to that process, but that would be a higher risk trade. We're using low risk at this point. If you hit a medium, or even like if you first started here on the, if you got here exactly at the top of the hour and you push that trade on, you would have probably got into it. But I'm using low risk on this process, you know, within certain reason. There's a top side and a bottom side to this process. If you know, we really wanted to, we could have probably stayed down around this area to keep us safe from losing, but we're here to make trades too, so we have to kind of keep that in mind. This may get picked up, but we'll see. Let's go down the list a little bit. Great Britain Pound USD does have a signal on it. It's a little far out. I'm not even going to bother putting the working order on to take that over. If you're here training, if you're here to train, there's a couple of things we're going to talk about in one of the mid-level episodes of today. Training versus learning kind of mentality. We can sort of, you can almost, as you're going down the list, start looking at where is that, start setting up your models for what's about to come, right? We kind of see that we have this sort of pseudo top right there. Now, why don't I go from the top up here? Because when I get equal lines, like when we get a raise up here and then another equal line here, this is more like a head and shoulders, right? If you kind of visualize it, it comes up, back down, up, back down. Sometimes you would have another little up here somewhere in one of these bars to make it a true head and shoulders, but this is really committing to a zone, right? To a channel, if you will. Okay. And as you're going down, if you got nothing to do from the time that you're looking for trades to the time for setup, start pre-setting stuff up, because look, this is a pretty good setup if there was a signal on here. If there was a signal, say right here at the top of this hour, this would have been a great sell at a very close price, right? Because for it to fail, it would have to be back up here again. So as it pushes through, this is where a good price would have been, or if we had a signal on, it would have been a good opportunity. Here's another crossover. And again, when this contention happens, the setup has to be like almost perfect, right? Sometimes when you get into looking at the trades, it's like, damn, am I late? Yeah, we're about 8 minutes into the hour here. But 8 minutes would only been back to here, and you still, you could have came up close to do it, you know, but that gives you a high risk trade here. We're looking to make trades by the signal coming out and it coming up, coming back, picking up your thing and going on, right? We want it to have a little pullback. That's what our signals are for. That's what our whole entire process is designed around. For level 1 traders. For level 2 traders, you can begin to look at how close can you get to on a particular pair when the setup starts to look a particular way, right? And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. On this particular pair, Euro, Great Britain Pound, I have a Euro USD in the hole. I could look at this one. If I were to, I would be pulling back to the really strong top of this crossover. So that would be down here or even here. Okay, somewhere in between 86.31 and 86.27. That's not a lot of margin. Remember, this is one of those pips there. Sorry, folks. There you go. Let's go over and have a look here. What's available at 86.31 area? O'clock, 86.35. So again, it's pushing into the trade a little bit. 86.35 would be all the way up here. I wouldn't want to do that. So 86.25, 10 pips down would sort of put me into this zone right here to be the top. So if I were to put a safe trade on, it would be that. But again, I don't really feel comfortable just putting trades on the trades on. But since we are, I don't know why I put 35 in there. Since we are in demo, but I don't want to get used to that. We're going to be using this time starting very soon to be trading live with these solutions, only putting on trades in this time frame that I do trade. I normally don't trade the 9 to 11 time period, so that's why I'm in this. We did get picked up, excuse me, on that Euro USD. We'll see what happens there.
Hi, Max. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You're a little loud, but let me turn you down some.
Sorry. Can you share your screen, please?
Yes, I can. Thank you. I keep doing that because I'm recording for other people too, so I do apologize, everybody. All right. So let's go back over. We're on the Euro Great Britain Pound. We're on the pair we just took a single pair from the Euro USD, and I'll go over that again. We had that contention, but you can kind of see it was still fitting in that channel, right? So it's probably going to, if it does fail at this point, it may bounce off. I don't see any pushing news here, but this would be then considered a process of contention on that pair. See how it's like sort of failing at that point. So we'll see what happens. Again, testing out that value, even if I would have came back to, I did come back to this process here. So we're all good. USD JPY, let's see how the market fills out for the rest of the morning. Audi JPY, no signal. Euro Great Britain Pound, there was a signal on there which we took the thing on. Signal on the Great Britain Pound JPY. Now there's a couple things here that are starting to happen. The moving average is set up into a proper trend value, which is the yellow for a downtrend is the yellow on top, the blue in the middle, your 50. So your 100 on the top, 50 in the middle, and 20 at the bottom. And at this point, also the arrow fired off at a really heavy pivot zone for the day. And you can kind of see very, very heavy, and it's already pushed past. I think if we would have found this one first, this would probably been a good trade to get into almost immediately at that red line. Again, we can't. I get stuck into talking. If I was trading, I'd just zip down and kind of have a look. And that should be a practice you do. Just go. Don't even start making the trades. Just go look to see what's set up, and if there is anything set up, and what looks the best. These big, huge movements of trend that come up, I always get worried about, even though that everything's sort of like pushing up and it's really saying, oh, it's trend, 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 trend. There is trend exhaustion. You know, how long? So this is a 4-hour block here from here to here. So 3/4 of that 4 hours has been utilized in an uptrend at that point. And can you get to exhaustion? If we pull back and look left, there's really no space here. So it's got to eventually turn off on itself, but we'll see what happens. Even if I did have a good feeling about this, I wouldn't get into this trade because it's going to try to do what? It's going to try to come back to this 50 moving average somehow. And if the time is out, here's an hour, right? Can it move to that distance? If I get pulled up here to put my statement, I might get clocked off, right? If I were to be a high risk, I'd be even in here at that level at 26.15. Go down to the USD CHF, no trade there, and the USD Maxx. I'm going to suggest that you do not trade the USD Maxx for a while. It's been very volatile. All right. So we've gone through each one of these to a degree. And I want to talk to you today. In this part of the segment, we're going to talk about the value of the trade timing. You know, getting in, when you get in, what do you look at? Why will trades fail? There's only a handful of things that we're going to be able to talk about this. So we're going to talk about looking at the expiry time, the most volatile part of the entire trade. Okay. As we know, we trade in for an hour, right? Most of our information that we obtain is obtained over a period of 4 hours. We're looking for a block of what the market's doing within this 4-hour period. Okay. A lot of the information for this pattern that happens in that last hour or so, right? An hour, 2 hours within this 4 hours. So 1 hour of signal activation, one and 2 hours of pattern searching, right? You know, what's the market actually doing? And as this happens, mentally what we're looking at is when a 1 hour process happens, out of that 1 hour, at the beginning of the hour, there was probably a little bit of pressure happening from the previous hour close, right? The most volatility for most trades is in that last 5 to 10 minutes. We've all seen it. We've all seen in that last 5 to 10 minutes of a trade, even in the last milliseconds, you can lose a trade. If I show you the AUD USD from 1 a.m. last night, there's a couple, even in this entire string, I'm going to show you a few things here. Let's see if I can find it. There's 2300. There we go. Okay. Everything's been going good. We've got a good line of moving average. But again, remember, trend exhaustion happens, and we're all the way down here, and we're 7709 to 7713. About, what is that? About 4 or 5 pips from that exhaustion. And then as I put in, I looked at this channel right here last night. Okay. And I derived that right about, what is it, 7714 is what I got in at. Right about there. There. Okay. So I was like, okay, well, this is probably pretty good. But what I did is that, and this happens to me a lot because I was used to trading off the bounce in Forex a lot, off the bottom of the bounce, is that I said, you know, if it does fail, it's going to fail. It's going to be put up here. I would normally put like a stop loss up this point because knowing that it was going to go against. But in these cases, what I have to start learning myself even, and what I'm teaching you today, is that when you spot this channel happening, okay, I keep trying to change that. Okay, when you spot this channel happening, honor this channel because there's 2 parts to it. There's a top and a bottom. A true downtrend will bounce off that level and continue on down. Okay, and I thought we were close enough to this trend switching and coming down, but if we look back, the trend has been going on for a pretty long time if you look at that 100 moving average. Okay, so what I said to myself is that I'll just come back to this 7714 since we're pretty close. What I didn't realize is that, and this happens a lot with the AUD USD, is that I don't want to bounce off the bottom. I want to be somewhere in between the bottom and the top and here somewhere, right? Because the power of that last 5 minutes is always really strong. And if we zoom in here, we'll see, okay? If I would have gotten 77.18, this would have picked up. That's what was available over on Nadex. It would have picked up and then bounced off, but it would only won in the last 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. A lot of the action of these levels that we talked about yesterday, that Nadex's market makers, not Nadex themselves, but the market makers over at Nadex, utilize these levels in a very strategic way because they know at these particular times there's a lot of contention at those times. There's a lot of movement in the market at that point. Yes, sometimes we get lucky and we get ones that pop off our bounce and they just go into the stratosphere and we feel like super traders, like we get to pick the market and do nothing wrong. But a lot of the times, these trades are won and lost in the last few minutes. And if you really scan back, you can see how many times, simply by looking at each one. As you think, oh, this is catastrophic failure, and you take this one and it goes up, and you're like, all right, I'm doing good. And then again, in the last 5 minutes, last 5 minutes of this trade, probably in the last couple of seconds, it possibly lost. More other trades in there picked up in there. And again, when the price starts to move really far away from the moving average, you want to take caution because there is a ceiling to it. There's always a ceiling. If you notice, it always comes back to the moving average because the moving average is the price. But it's going to try to validate that process by, I did it again. I'm glad we're not playing a drinking game. You guys would all be drunk every time I move something I didn't need to move. Remember that we're looking for a pullback, and not this strong, but it's a pullback. We're looking for that possibility of that pullback to give us an area that we can decide when the signal fires that we can kind of hover at and be at. So it's never just a signal cut and go. Right? You want to validate these setups. And since that got broken, I can take that off. And we can see again, though, that it reassigned itself to this channel. Now, it broke out of the channel, at least enough for us to be weary with it. But now what happens? Our channel just grew. You see? So after that setup, it's not about finding perfection within that and hoping. It's playing the odds. Right? And is the odds going to fall in your favor more than not? We're at 9:22. We've been in this trade for about maybe 10, 15 minutes. And it still can unfold at this point. Why I have a good feeling about it and why it makes me okay is because this 20 moving average is still above this process of the 50, which means that this market is switching at that point. It's trying to switch, at least for a short period of time. It switches. The overall moving average of the trend is still set to a sell, right? Because this 100 moving average is above everything and the price is below it. Got me? So in these blocks of time, you can set up that concept of staying away from anything that's a buy at this point, or finding only things that are sells. And when they're set up, when it's below, like we do with the validation of the 50, if there's a buy that's below, do you even bother with it? Or do you create yourself, like David Benny says, when in doubt, move out, move your line down some, right? Maybe move it to the actual setting there. So at 20.003, again, this is not very many pips. What do we got for 10 a.m. here? See, 004 right there. That would have been picked up. And that's still a possibility. But again, if this over the next hour starts to come down and starts to face downwards, we may be in a little trouble with level we're in right now. We can super analyze this process as we trade. But if you feel comfortable with that 2008, that's what we got into up to here. Has potential to get back up in there, and we'll see. You have to take an idea of the support and resistance areas as battle zones. Okay? Sells being one side, buyers being another. In this particular case, you can see that these areas where they fight and they bounce off are very strong. But it doesn't mean that it's an all-in kind of mentality. It means that you just probably have a better opportunity from that. And I talked about yesterday about the lines being zones. How do you depict those? You usually find an area where you get a lot of movement. And let's just say I do something like that, right? Where I have some closes in there, some opens, and then we got some movement there, right? So this is like an artistic rendering of a zone in my mind, because I I have a lot of touches to that. And the more touches that I can get, like that one, let me see if I can just zoom in here. Move out just a little bit. Okay. I can get more touches like that one. This one kind of touched the bottom line. Those two touch, that touch, the closed touched, the closed or the open touch there. So it's sort of one and the same. So in that zone. And then what I look at is that for that particular zone, I make another zone and duplicate that. And this would be what I would refer to as my support and resistance zone. Anything can happen in that area. And as you can see, if I were to move or just extend these over to here, watch what happens. It starts to make sense. At the area of contention, the movement, everything. That one touches real close. This one gets super close. These get super close to the bottom. This bounced off the mean, which is that red line. And it did its job. Now we're battling down here at this other zone. Now this one's a little bit easier. This green zone, that green to red right there, Christmas zone right there, looks to be about where the strength is. Right? We have another one that battles right there. And this line was here when we started this morning. See? And it also creates a zone. You have to be able to look in here and see the different levels. Let's go back over to the Euro USD and draw that out. Get rid of some of this. And draw into. Expand this out so you can see it a little bit better. So we're hoping that this push out and failure will come back in and sort of right itself, because we know that it wants to try to come back to where? Above the moving average. And when this 20 moving average moves above the 50 like this, they're trying to settle something. They're probably going to create a pull up to here. Let me see if I can pull up to right about here and failure back down or push back down. So we're just hoping that that happens. Only if it's going to fail, it's going to fail in that last 5 minutes at this level. Maybe pull up and fall underneath if it's going to fail at that point. Or if it's going to succeed, it's going to succeed in that last 5 minutes, maybe a little bit lower, and then push up through. And mark my words on it, it'll be one of those two things in that last 5 to 10 minutes. I can almost guarantee it, unless it just completely drops. All right. At this point, we're about halfway through the first hour. And I always want to make sure that if you have questions, thanks for telling me to share my screen, David. I appreciate that. I always forget that. Does anybody have anything they want to add to this morning? Or any questions? Any setups you want to see? Questions of the setup? Does anybody have a trade that they did for me to analyze? Is anybody in a trade at the moment? Okay. These trading sessions in the morning, I don't want them to turn completely into lectures. This is your time. This is what you've paid for me to do and help you beat and get the things. If you have perfect trades going on, then say nothing. But none of you should feel embarrassed about showing screens or showing the process or making mistakes or any of that kind of BS. We're all adults here and we're all traders here. And how we get better at trading is by asking questions and learning. If you learned a lot from this morning, then great. If you don't got a good mic or you just want to ask me a question on the personal side, I can keep you anonymous or whatever you want to do from that point.
Hey, Max.
Yeah, bud.
I'm in the euro dollar right now.
Okay. What level?
At what level here? Can't focus my eyes this morning.
I know. I got to raise my screen resolution all the way up to everything.
In 12004.
Right. Yeah, I did 08 from the process. You did 4, so you probably have a better area of winning this trade than I do because you went one out from the low risk. You went one down from the low
Yeah,
risk, right? Yeah.
that's
So
kind of bouncing there.
yeah, it started to do its contention and was down. In fact, originally the level that I had seen for that channel was down right around in here, forcing that up into this area. But it looks like it's going to take a punch in the face this morning. But again,
Oh, well,
but we have a half hour to kind of look at that.
that's how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I ended up winning. I was 6-0 last night at midnight from manual trading yesterday, and then I was up a little bit late. Stayed on no excuses. It was a natural loss for me, but I ended up 6-1 from the last 24 hours. Probably now 6-2 after we finish this, but we'll see what
Uh,
happens.
I'm 11 and 2 right now.
Right now, for those of you that are here that are for manual or trading, there are ways to trade using the Zedons and all that other kind of stuff. But in this room, we're really kind of keep the process about manual trading at the moment. We will have some announcements today that we're going to be going through and what we're going to be building and stuff like that later on. Okay, hang on one second. David, do you have a favorite pair to trade?
I have more of ones that I hate.
The anti-hate ones. What are the anti-hate ones? What are the ones that you absolutely hate?
I hate the dollar peso
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and the U.S. dollar Canadian. That just bugs me. That thing is so unpredictable.
yeah. I call it the prima donna pair all the time.
Yeah. Otherwise, the other ones are okay. I mean,
Right.
I tend to lean towards the majors.
Yeah. Normally I do as well. I have a. I mean, I like the Euro USD. I am a fan of the Great Britain Pound JPY. But a big question we'll talk about in this segment here is that when people ask, "What's the best pair? What's the best time to trade?" And that's really super tough for any one of us to answer. I think David, myself, and probably about 20 other people within the network can go at any one time during the day, sit down for at the top of the hour, analyze a few pairs, look at the contention of that area, or try to find a good pair to be with, and trade. So basically, we can sit down at any time. There's not, I wouldn't say that there's one better area than another, but more opportunity or more, but there's a trade off in everything, right, David? There's a trade off that, like in the morning, you're going to get a lot more, volatility. Where at night it might be smoother, but there may not be as many opportunities to trade because at
Correct.
night you're only trading the major pairs. You're not trading any of the secondary pairs because they're not made available. And there's a reason for that, by the way. There's a reason why the Great Britain Pound USD doesn't trade at certain, or the Great Britain Pound JPY doesn't trade at certain times of the day. There's a reason why the Audi JPY and the secondary pairs don't trade at night because they're super stable. You can almost guarantee they'll be over certain levels. And I've proven that. You look back at your Great Britain Pound JPY during a time when you don't trade, you'll see that there's not a lot of volatility at these points. at 2 o'clock in the morning, you can kind of almost depict. Oh, man, everybody drink. Everybody drink again. Right? You got a good statue of trends that happen, and you can kind of depict these trends because they validate the levels. They stay at the levels. They're very, very strong. But once you add some volatility from the beginning of the day, from that 8 o'clock in the morning to 1500 in the afternoon, they're pretty volatile at times. But then they settle down at night. Market makers wouldn't want to fill anything at night for that matter. And I don't think that's scammy or sketchy. I think it's pretty smart to know where your traders are trading at. So when the answer is, when is the best time to trade, is that the best time for you to trade is for when you can trade. Get your timing in. Get your learning on. Find the solutions for yourself. Look at the levels. Trade as many times as you can. In practicing, we're going to talk about that next. It's tough to kind of figure out what to do. But as we talk about learning versus trading, learning versus training is a mentality that we sort of started to look at, because when you're learning, you're watching the videos, you're in this room right now. It's the training that really makes you a trader. Not hearing somebody talk about it, but the doing of the fact. And some of you don't have a lot of time to trade those particular processes of sitting down for an hour to make it. So we break it up into three processes of training. The first is to make sure that you know how to attach a signal to Nadex. How do I get into Nadex? How do I get onto the pair? What's this red side mean? What's this blue side mean? So this training, you get sort of a feeling of it, but the training is, once you know what they are, the training then comes on and says, all right, listen, when I click on this particular button, it pulls up this particular ticket. What are all these things? You've already learned what they are. Now, how can you efficiently use them? The training is to help your efficiency, not just your knowledge. Your training is also to help you with your, I guess, how would you call that, David? When you sort of just start to know, right? It's like you commit it to memory. You commit it to muscle memory, right? There's a few times that I've asked you, David.
I call it the trader's eye.
The trader's eye, the trader's mind's eye, middle eye, or something like that.
Yeah.
So if you have the trader's mind, then you got the trader's eye, right? You can just basically see it, even from a naked chart.
It's weird over time. It just, all of a sudden, you just see it.
Right. Like I can tell you that when we first started looking at this USD CAD, we're looking at exhaustion here, right? These values of following trend and how far they pull away from the moving average, they're always going to try to come back to that point. David exudes a huge amount of patience. The more patience you can utilize, the better you will be. Because you could probably try to force a trade, you may win. If I would put something right here, I would have probably, if I said at the money, it would have probably been a possibility of going, but then there's a lot of contention, a lot of sweat from that point. That's a trade style. You could then have a point where you're like, all right, I'll do a little bit of pullback, maybe somewhere in between the medium, or you can go with the low risk all the way down here. It's got to go in the failure, and this has to be a really strong zone, though. You don't just pick an area just because, oh, let me try this one. Oh, let me try this one. That's not training. Learning how to look left, spot those, and then move on. David calls it the trader's eye. He's basically right. It's like a subconscious act. If you look left, look at that process. This is like a little secret hidden area. But will it get filled? We don't know. Most of us in training, we try to force the trades. Let me get in and see if it wins. Let me see if I can find something new. Oh, and it goes up here and it comes down here and it goes here. This is a signal. Right? We always try to make new rules to adjust ourselves. We've stayed with the same rules, using moving averages along with our signal and the values of that channel, which we call the breakout process, right? Let's go and have a look at our little buddy. Trying to come back, but again, it's committed to this. We could probably even move this little bugger down to here now. Create this big, huge channel bouncing in. Overall, that channel is committing to this 200 moving average. Being able to read this as a story too is pretty helpful. Now, in training, if you're here and you're past these models already, maybe you never really done them. I would spend, if you're just starting out, you normally spend about, I would say 100 trades to get into that you're smooth. You see it, just go there and put 100 trades on, not all at once, of course. But you would go and you would get the signal, follow one particular thing or another, right? So you would follow a low risk, go to the low risk, see 2087 or 2007, go to Nadex, find the closest one, get in, put 45 in or 55 in, use one contract, place order, watch where it goes into orders and watch it progress. Then go grab another pair. When you first start out, you're going to go down the list, and every single signal that you see, you're going to go into. When you're training and you're using demo, you go put 100 trades on, so you can almost subconsciously go and punch this thing in the face every single time and never have one of those things where you go in and you're like, you go into Nadex, you got that on, you put in 55, and then for some reason you put 21. You don't make these kind of mistakes. That's what you're trying to do. In that very first phase of really training, you're just trying to get rid of all that little nonsense, that nervousness, that you know where everything is at. And you do 100 trades like that, which shouldn't take you too long over a period of time if you're on the 1 hour phase. If you really want to mess people up, let me see. Tell me you're a 5-minute trader. No, I'm only kidding. Let me see here. Turn your system on. Get your let me see. Put an indicator on. Put a built-in in. Because you don't need all this other stuff on here when you do this. Invite only. Dex Atomics. Up and did it twice. Idiot. All right. Go into settings. Go to 1 minute. Keep it on medium. Do medium. Doesn't really matter. And now every 5 minutes, to a degree, something's going to fire. Right? And it doesn't matter win-loss. In that first segment of you training, win-loss does not matter at all. You're just going in, learning how to go from this to here, to trade, to done. That's all you're looking to do, that first 100 or 50 trades, 100 trades or what have you. The next segment of training for you is to isolate your time. Because when you first go in, you're just like blankly going in. What you want to start doing is you want to start looking a little bit left and noticing the patterns, recognizing the patterns, finding the patterns. And how do you find that? If you really want, you don't even have to go to the 5-minute section to do time, because you could use the replay system. Is start to train yourself on how to stay left. You can look left, but you have to stay left. Don't cherry pick. Just go all the way back to as far as you can go with your account system. Learn how to use this program pretty well. Okay, pick one, kind of don't look right, and come up and hit the replay button. Right? And just pick one. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Then sit here for a second. It's like spinning around in that game where you're trying to find blind man's bluff. So you just kind of sit here for a second and forget everything that happened right. And then you're going to hit play. And you're going to let this thing go until you get your first signal that comes up. And if it's not happening fast enough, really push it. Bop, bop, bop. And then keep your hand on the pause button. Boom, there it is. Now, usually you're within this first 10 minutes, so that's a little bit cheating, but still. Now, guess where it's supposed to be at? And what you do is you grab yourself a line, a big old bright line, and you say, okay, this is the zone I like. It doesn't matter if it's actually correct of a Nadex trade. If you would have gone in, you're usually about 1 or 2 pips from your line anyway. Right? We're on the Great Britain Pound USD. So I'm going to say, I like it up here. It's everything's moving up. Everything's in condition. Here are the 3 moving averages. They're all in the same direction. It doesn't look like anything's in a channel. It looks like it's in a pretty good trend over a long period of time. It's not a super pull away, and it's going to have to try to come back. It looked like it's following it. So I'm going to stay right here in case I get pullback, and then hit play. Now, right there, as I paused it, it filled, pulled back, and won. Okay? Because here's the clock. It's right there. I put it at, for me, it was 38.31. This came out at, let me see, you can tell, if ever you hover over a bar, up in this top section up here will give you the close. It'll be the open, which is the O, the H, which is the high, the L, which is the low, the C, which is the close. So it closed at 38.32. My little line here that I put down for my simulated statement was 38.30. So I won by 2 pips. Yay for me. Now, how long did that take? 10 seconds? Some of you are saying, I don't know which ones to trade or which ones to do. Don't practice in real time. Let me say that again. Do not practice in real time. Burn, because you're going to get plenty of time to trade. You're going to get plenty of time to do those other things. You have to practice, right? Like a batter's cage. That batter's up there swinging the ball at the machine that's throwing it into his head at 100 miles an hour. He's not asking some pitcher to throw him just a whole bunch of balls at that level. He's getting a lot of his practice, a lot of his muscle memory. There's where also a lot of bad habits are formed, of course, as well. Right? But do another 100 trades on every single pair at this point if you have to. Now, these are simulated pairs, or simulated trading at this point. We will have an indicator that we're going to be releasing soon that we're going to be able to put over this, and it'll show you the Nadex pricings for your time frame here. Okay? So that's exciting. So you do 100 trades like this. And as you are sort of counting, you're just doing little hash marks, okay? This one picked up and I won. Now setting that up to, you have to make sure that for it to show it being picked up, the maximum allowed distance from an entry is 1 pip. This will simulate a 45.55 trade value. If you do 2 pips in here, if you're trading, say, 40 to 60, so 40.60, and 3 pips will be 25.75 or 30.70 kind of mentality. And anything above that's, your guess is just as good as mine at that point. Okay? So, practicing in real time is not a very, you're not practicing off just the signals that are firing off. You should be looking left, isolating these things, hitting this button in the replay. And again, if it's not going fast enough, so I'm 1-0 right there, there may not be a lot. So you might have to speed it up even further. Oh, there it is. And it might get away from you, though, if you do that, right? So be patient, go through practice, and then spend another hour and go through 40 or 50 trades on USD, JPY. Okay. In the final phase of training is now that you've gone through each one of these, you probably have a favorite pair or a good feeling about one of these pairs. Like if your favorite pair is Euro Great Britain Pound, you're not trading at 8 o'clock at night. So you have to be able to suit your time to your level of availability. And that's it. You have to suit your time to your level of availability. Okay, I'm kind of picking it back up in here again. Hopefully we can push in. Because if you're not going to suit your time to your availability, you're going to be filled with anxiety during that time. You have to start removing those things. There's no one way to do any of this stuff. There's multiple ways. The averages of things that we look at, all these other things. Oh, if I put an RSI on, and there's a lot of stuff that's happening on this trade right now, or on this chart right now. And we could dial it back a little bit, right? But the three major things, and even the Hilt box being on there, is a little bit much at this point. I'm trying to, our next version of the Dex Atomex will have an availability to broadcast the one over or first under, and also remove all these diodes of having the Hilt box on there. Okay? Because there's a lot of stuff on here. But each one of these little processes have a large amount of information with it. And it's good to have that. At this point, does anybody have any questions? Anything that they're struggling with? Eric B says in his chat to me that he trades between 6 and 7 a.m. and then 7 and 11. So he gets a couple good hours in here, right? During that time, I'm not sure what pairs he trades, but I do realize that he has, because he's probably preparing for work, he's probably getting ready, he's probably spending about 10-15 minutes to the top of the hour, at the top of the hour, getting into his trades and doing his thing. So, and another part of the segments here is like, how are you preparing yourself during your day to trade? What are some of your things that you do as your what do they call it, the checklist, if you will? What are you doing to set up? What are you doing to prepare yourself to trade? I'm not saying like Frasba or fire off the incense, but there should be a ritual that you commit to. Remove all the Facebook stuff, Twitter, get your phone turned into silent, shut the door, get the kids out, get ready to put it in. Get ready to make it happen. Now, you don't need a lot. Now, you're stuck with me here, or I'm stuck with you here, or I'm stuck with being inside the computer. But for the most part, preparing myself for the trades is that I try to remove as much of the distractions as possible. Secondly, I prepare my workspace. My keyboard's clean, my desktop's cleaned off, everything's out of the way. I don't have any major distractions at that point. My door's closed, my family knows I'm trading. And so you have this time period. So at the top of the hour, you get into the trade, you analyze a little bit, and that first block of time, for you beginner traders, if you've gone through and you've done your first phase of training and you've gone through your 100 trades, and you can get on Nadex with your eyes closed, you got your other 4 or 500 trades that you've done at this in these levels here with replays, and now you're into the methodical line of just trading. Now it's time to protect your psyche. If you sit down at the computer and you're just still in that beginning phase, because there's 3 more phases that you're going to be doing from that point later on, you're going to put about maybe 200 or 300 trades in at this next level, to where you're going to be in demo, you're going to be doing your thing, you're going to be trading seriously, you're going to be going after the best of the best. You'll put 100, maybe 200 trades in. Just take a month or two. Once you're at that level and that mentality, to protect yourself, get up out of your chair as soon as you place the trades. When you've gone down your list and you've done your analyzation and you've gotten maybe your 1 or 2 trades on, get the hell out. Don't sit here and watch this per tick, because you're going to super analyze every little tick that comes over. Up, am I in the right way? Oh, wait. All right, I'm doing good now. I'm winning. But when it was back over here, we're like, this sucks. I can't win nothing. Oh yeah, it sucks again. Right? Don't live and die with every bar. That's the only thing that protects me. When do I come back? Remember what I said about it being really volatile? I try to really persist to not come back and look at my trades that are on until they're done. I don't scalp. I can scalp, but I got to pay attention to that. Even though that I could sit down and do this in the next phase, I don't. You can only choose to go to these phases that you're in right now is what you're going to probably be in. Once you get to that phase of I'm training, I've traded, now I'm in trading and earning my living. When I get to that point, you could choose 1 of 3 phases to be in. That first phase is where you're sort of probably most of you are in right now. You make your trade, you kind of look at them, you probably get up from your chair and you walk away for a little while and you go do what you're going to do. But for those that are going to be sitting in a chair that are like, hey, this is my jam. I love trading. I want this part. You know, I really dig going through this process and seeing where I can do, I can hit different levels. I can push into a trade when I feel comfortable, because I can recognize. Because remember, you're only taking those first, in the first phase of trading now, right? You're no longer training, you're in trade. I'm always training myself, of course, and practicing for different levels, different setups, how well do they work at certain areas. But for me, it's once I'm at that point, I can be in any one of these 3 phases. And that first phase is that novice phase. Right? So, yeah, I'll talk about that here in a second, Jeff. So in the first phase, I'm trying to protect my psyche as much as possible, but learning as I'm going as well. So I'll sit down in a chair for the first 10 minutes of the hour. I'll do my trades, try to get through this as much as possible, be out by 15 minutes, spend 45 minutes joking around, doing whatever I can possibly do. You know, cleaning dishes, cooking food, doing whatever. And then I got to be done. I've been distracting you well enough, but with the nonsense that's been sitting here, but you're seeing like the trade's winning at the moment. And we're in there, 11 seconds in. And we're 4 pips up, 3 pips up. You see, the most volatile part of this game is recognizing that this stupid pair won in the last 5 minutes. Because look, it was at close of the previous bar at 2006, 1 pip away. So it won. We're 1-0. Auto USD. Oh, let me show you what Jeff sent me. Yeah, look at this. And was this a win for you, Jeff? I think this may have been a win. I don't know what pair that is, but oh wait, there it is. This would have given me heart failure last night if I would have watched 2 USD JPY 108.08 9 p.m. 55. I won that trade, but it did not win till the very last few minutes. Absolutely. We talk about that because the last part of volatility is always in that last, the premium's gone, the movement's moving, it's all moving around. All right, let's do a quick market scan. Please, in the room, tell me if anybody got into that Euro USD and won. Please let me know in the room, please. Euro JPY.
I won it.
Well, of course you won it, Mister. I win everything I put my hands on.
I don't do that.
I know. I know.
I wish I could.
I know. I wish you could too, because then I just come over to your house.
Yeah,
All right.
really.
So we have the Euro JPY on this. Oh, man. And again, I don't like super stupid fast movement, but we do have a curl. Everything's going down. I'm going to leave this one off. I'm not going to even look at that one just at the moment. Another buy on the Euro USD. I don't really feel comfortable at this point because we had a lot of contention there. I would really love for this just to blow up and go up. Let's just look to see if there's anything else stable in USD JPY. See, now we're going to get serious here in the second hour. We're going to be looking at this going down super fast. Your Great Britain pound, nothing there. Great Britain pound JPY, nothing there. Thank God it didn't touch. Look, we had massive news happening. Red news, right? Canadian news, just punching this thing in the face. Is it affecting anything else? USDC, yeah, we do get some movement around, but not a lot, right? But look at that. It's like, I don't like you. Now, there's no signal that fired. And if you are a fan of USD CAD, kind of steer away from this for the next hour or so. Don't even look at it in the face. All right, here's a USD CHF. I don't like trading the Swissy. But we can, since we're in practice mode, if you are in practice mode, this is not to be considered a live trade at this point. Okay. But the setup is pretty good. It's nice and solid, nice and sweet. Again, if you're looking at this trade, David, do you ever take the USD CHF?
I don't particularly care for that one either.
Good, because we're not even going to bother with it. But if we were to trade it, this has a good validation of the uptrend. I will try to stay with a low value here, and so I'll stay with that low risk at this point. I don't see anything in contention to say I should pull back, right? Like we shouldn't pull back into a different level, like lower than lower risk, right, David?
I would. I just don't like that pair.
Oh, because you would be in avoidance, right? So, so at this level, then where would you pull back to? If we look left a little bit within our 4-hour Hilt box, would you be pulling back to what area? Like somewhere in this area?
Right there.
Yeah. Okay. So this is good advice on a pair that you may not like, but there's probably a good opportunity to purchase. This is a pretty good area. It's the bottom line of that channel. Now, we kind of talked about this a little bit, is recognizing the channel value, right? Did we find, I don't think we found anything. Did we? Okay, let me get back up. We'll come back to that in a second. I'm sorry. I always get distracted when this comes to this kind of stuff. Euro JPY. Is anything tickling your fancy there, David?
I'd go down to that.
There, that's where the green line is for low. Would you be down here?
I'd go there.
So Euro JPY.
You know, if it picks up, it'll probably win.
Yeah. Well, it's going to bounce off that lower trend or that lower channel value. Let's go see what that line is. 129.65. Now, when there's not major contention happening, we try to pull back to those levels. This would also be another good level, and it's where the support is at. But we do have a downtrend happening with this buy bar or this buy signal, right? Because it's over the 50 moving average, this tells us there might be a little bit of contention of it going up or forceful coming back down. And that's why David and I would pull back to these levels, right? See that level. This is really where the channel is, but this is where the channel has shown us where it could go. So we probably go to there. And that level is 129.65. 129.65. Wait, what did I do? We're going to go to Euro JPY. 4:11 a.m. 129.65. Now, because it's further out, 67 will work for me. 55. In place order. And I feel comfortable with that. Now, at this point, you're probably like, well, Max, that's just did I do the wrong one? No, I did it right? Okay. 129.65. 129.67 is right here. So it's super, super close at that point. So if it is going to continue on down, it wants to close. It just kind of broke even right there at that level. It wants to come down right around in this area to bounce back off again if it's going to monitor that, or it's over the next 2 hours, it's going to end up down in here. Let's look at some of the other trades here. The Euro USD. I'm really not, see, it's not really settling so well with me. It's still following that downtrend. If I were to do anything, it would be down around in this area. But again, I'm trying to protect the asset at this point. David, would you even trade this? Yeah.
No, because I traded it the hour before.
You wouldn't trade it again.
I rarely trade a pair in consecutive hours.
Gotcha. And at 10:30, there is some major news happening at that level. This is a lot of news. So I'm probably going to avoid taking any trades at this level with a USD moniker to it at that point. All right. Do you have anything else on the board that you were looking at?
I do not.
All right. Well, again, these hours that we trade in the room with you guys, they're not always necessarily the best times to trade. And so for me, it's taking advantage of the times that we have, but I'm not here to force a trade. Neither is David. By the way, congratulations to Timothy. If you got that, you won that one. Congratulations. Jeff Whiteman says that he likes signals to match trend. Absolutely. And I don't blame you. Here's the thing about the 50 moving average trend. It's sort of the mix in between dynamic and long-term value. I could even probably put a fourth one on here, which is the 200 moving average, which really packs it to you. But listen, start utilizing this 3 MA setup. It will make so much sense to you. I don't know if David uses it, but it doesn't really matter if he does or doesn't. He still uses that price action of value of level, which is really important. Spotting these channels. It's another big one. Homework for you. Jump into your replay. Start showing me.
Max?
Yeah, buddy.
What are those 3 moving average values? The 100, 50, what's the other one?
And this one's a 20. You would think 25,
20.
right? You would think 25. And you could possibly pull that one off. But I always like the 20 because it has more of it just has more of a dynamic value for me than the 25. It's just a knee-jerk thing for me because I've always used that in everything else I have. It seems to have it wouldn't affect it too much if I punched it 225. I've always just used it that. You'll see there's a slight change that happens to it, right? If you want to make it symmetrical, then it's 150 and 25, right? So full value, half value, right to that point. David asks, are those simple moving averages or exponential? They are simple. Just straight out of the box moving. So it's set to source close, offset 0. It is just the indicator from the built-ins moving average. Right there. Click it to your favorites. Do whatever you got to do to get it on there. Set it to default. And if you set these 3 up like this, what you're going to get is just a little bit more information. And information is key here, especially at your levels that you're at. You know, as you can hear, David didn't even basically know what they were because he doesn't use them to, or know what the values were in there. He knows what they are, of course. But why do I do this? Well, because it gives you a lot of, excuse me, dynamic overlook for a long-term trend. Where if I remove some of these, if you didn't see the yellow or this aqua one, you would think when the trend came down to here and it started to flatten out, you wouldn't be able to see a lot of that level happening. I like the crossovers that happen too, moving average crossover, because the pullback away from this tells me that there is that it's going to try to come back up to a level of either the moving average 50 or 100, right? And also good clean levels where the yellow is on top, the blue is in the middle, and the aqua is down the bottom tells me that it's an expected trend to continue to move that for at least a little while. Okay, so there is a lot of little ways that you can start visualizing these, but where you get the real experience is go linear. Go back in time with the replay button and just sit and let it play. And have whether or not you think it's a guessing game or not, start to spot the levels that you like. Don't just make it about a one particular value that has to happen for you to be able to trade. Okay? Who's manually trading live in the room? You can either message me privately or you can say it in the room. It's up to you. If you're in the room trading live, and you're trading with more than one contract, of course. Jeff, thank you, sir.
I trade live, of course,
Yeah.
more than one.
Starting tomorrow, I got to figure out how to do this. Because I also got to be careful showing the accounts for a particular account that we have. So I have to be a little bit careful. It's not that I'm trying to be sneaky or hide anything from you or say I'm trading demo or trading live, but I'm trading demo. I would never do that. But I want to be in putting my meat back into the game here. So when I am trading with, now normally I wouldn't trade this particular time. I can trade this time with you guys and show you where trades are. And I'm seeing that there is some trades that I can mess with and can work with. Like yesterday we had 1-0 in the room, right? In the 2 hours we did one trade and we won. And again, the same thing happened here from that 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock time period. And that 10 to 11 is pretty a little bit volatile for me. I like trading between 11 and 1500 or 12 and 1500 right at that 11 to 12 is usually pretty solid for me when I'm trading because I can pick some pretty good levels. Maybe we'll shift it from 10 to 12 when we do these processes. So when I am trading, I want to try to trade live with you. I will also have my demo up and I'll tell you when I'm practicing a value when I'm trading. I don't normally like to do that with a running account, right? I never practice with my real money. You don't get the edge of like, hey, you know what? Let me set myself on fire and see if I can shoot an arrow. I don't need to do that, right? I can go back and practice as much as I can with the replay. And ever since we moved our system over to TradingView, man, let me tell you, I've gotten years worth of experience in a couple of days just by trading this process. Well, Jeff, I hope some of these added little features and added little things that we're doing are helping you out and spotting the trends, spotting volatility. I know that there are others in the room that are just kind of getting their groove on. Now, for those of you that use the Zedon, again, I'm gonna be talking about. I know some of you sent me some messages privately. We're going to be talking about that later on today in a released video, and there's a lot of stuff that's happening. I see Thor's here today. Good morning, Thor.
Good morning. Kind of overslept.
Oh no,
So,
were you able to get into that? Were you able to get into that Euro USD?
No, I didn't trade. I haven't traded anything this morning.
Right.
Still trying to get some coffee injections.
Oh yeah, right. In fact, I got to go make some more. I developed. Here's what I really got to get my head into, and I apologize for the deviation here, folks. We have a coffee brand, right? And we've had this coffee brand for a while, and I just haven't finished settling it out and getting it out there to the world. I've been in marketing and advertising and doing all this stuff, and I love coffee, and we're going to be building this brand out, of course. And it's not just another product to sell, blah blah blah. But for me, I'm a real coffee lover. I used to use all kinds of different coffee machines, from, percolator to a French press to, just some store-bought box, put the water in, put the grinds in and go for the day. But I've been physically pressing my coffee now for a couple of years, and I stopped about a year ago and just went for convenience. I didn't buy a Keurig. I had one for a while, but it was ridiculous. But I started using just a machine, and coffee was okay, right? It had to be real robust, and I'm not a big sweet kind of coffee kind of guy. I like the hard and tumble. I don't drink it black. I will put some cream in it now because I don't want to be running around the block for 4 hours. Heart palpitations and stuff like that. But I started doing the French press system again, and boy, has it. I can only drink one cup of coffee a day, which I think is good because you don't want to drink too much coffee. But before, out of the percolator or the machine, I was drinking 2 or 3 cups because I think it was more watered down. I wasn't getting the ratio right or anything. But when you French press it, it kind of tells you how much coffee you need in there, right? And it'll let you do its thing. But I'm a big fan now of just enough coffee to get me through. All right. That's basically it for us today. I think like we've discussed a few things. We've discussed the movement. We discussed the 3 phases of training. Please, 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 and again, Thor and I are very busy today, but we are putting together a system where you'll be able to book time with us outside of this norm. Like with Eric B, he can only go from 6 to 7 and 7 to 11 at night. We will be making some time for him. And if you're in here and you are struggling, all right, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you are struggling. But the best way for us to be able to get that is use the tools at your advantage. And we, no pun intended, are a bunch of tools. We can help you learn and perfect your process. Because people like David and myself that are making more than a couple of $1,000s a month, and even sometimes more than a couple thousand a week, are not just here to glorify that process. Say, one day you'll get there. We want to physically get you there. I want you to establish that. And it's not something that's going to come automated. You guys are the diehards. You guys are the guys that are here. Every single one of you that's in this room. There should be no reason why you're not making $4,000 to $6,000 a month when you're doing this in the correct fashion. It's not to rush it. It's not to push it. You don't have to get into every trade. Every signal that comes over is not a perfect signal. It's just an indication. And that indication is riddled with observation and speculation. So you have to learn. Now look, if we would have gone with that one, this one would have been picked up and pulled off. But we're still channel trading at this point on this Euro USD. It's still a channel trade. It sort of settled out, you see. Even though that at one time it looked like there was heavy contention happening, which we got away with. Boom, boom. I don't think trading, and I think we did the right thing by not trading, but if we were to trade it, we would have pulled back a little bit more. This is a heavy area too. It's the 2000-001, right? So it's the 2000 zone. Zero in the last part of trading here, sorry. 0-0 levels, whether it be a JPY 0-0 or a other pair 0.00 anything at in those last two, are very strong levels. And they of course, just like with anything, they create a zone. And look at this zone that's right here. And look how perfect our hilt box sits over that. Our hilt box hits exactly over that zone area. This becomes the entire zone with a major level right smack dab in the middle. This is not coincidence. The reason why we have the hilt zone go over a 4-hour period and do all this stuff is because we've dissected what the market makers do. And once we're able to apply that Nadex strategy process like this looks crazy, right? I know. I'm working on displaying it a little bit better and only active during that trade time, but I'm still learning that process, so you have to bear with me. All right, but those are the actual statements on Nadex at the same time. All right. Thor, David, you guys got anything to add before we split?
Oh, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah. I want to make
Absolutely.
an acknowledgement to Damien, and I feel frustrated for this man because he's been with us for a long time. We've worked very hard. He's from Australia. Nadex is being kicked from Australia because of some sort of weird inclusion of this binary network bullshit that used to happen 5-10 years ago. Australia is not wanting to honor anybody who has an account over there. It sucks, right? They did the same thing to Canada, and it's. I believe that it's probably one of the strongest values. I think it's even stronger than for retail traders. I think it's the strongest available exchange to trade, or I wouldn't be doing it, and it's very frustrating. So, in his process, he is committing to using the DEX bot. Now, I do not, because this is a manual trading room, I do not condone trading this on a Forex process. I do not condone it. But what I can do is start to show some processes because I don't trust any brokerage out there. None. I don't trust Forex.com. I don't trust Oneida. I don't trust any of them. Their spreading process is criminal. But if you can pull it off, there are certain things, like I said, I'm going to be talking to some people within our system, Victor and other people that are probably still using the system. But I just want to do a shout out to him. He's in this room. He only has until the end of this month to be able to trade that process or this process. I'm willing to help him as much as I possibly can, but in our solution here. But one thing I can't do is I can't trade directly for anybody that's not within our company, like that's a partner of our company. I can't commit to a pooled kind of mentality in there either. So I do have to be a little bit careful what I say even now. All right. But thanks, Damien, for being here. We're going to try to help you as much as possible to get to a level of making money in something. And maybe you can help us out with exchanges that are over there as well. So thank you, sir, for being here today. A lot of these techniques that we tell you of learning these areas, a big thing for you for Forex is a lot of this crossover mentality. Real quick crossovers and stop losses at certain areas at certain levels. And noticing where they are. And there is a lot of availability for that. So you could still use the DEX Atomics to do that. And I may do a couple of videos this week on that for those that are Australian customers, because there's quite a few of the free side people that are from Australia that are very frustrated as well. Hang on one second. My daily sneezes in there, excuse me. All right, thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate everybody being here. We'll see you next time, which will be tomorrow, 4/22. It'll be Thursday. We're going to take it into the week. We're going to get through all this stuff, and we're going to have more fun. So far for the week, we're 2-0. And I know that doesn't seem like a lot during this trading session, but it is. And then tomorrow we're going to be using my live account to trade. You just may not be able to see it. I will have my demo up, which I'll be able to show you, but I'll also be trading on the live. So any demo trade that I will be taking within reason, I'll tell you, like, hey, I'm going to take this as a live. No, I'm going to practice this on a demo. I'll tell you out in the real world. All right? You guys have a great day. I got to go do a bunch of meetings and a bunch of stuff to build. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you next time. Have a great day. And as always, trade well.